life is full of adventures.
Do you take this man to be your husband?
I do. Welcome home.
We did it. He has your eyes.
He's perfect.
Make the most of them all with PenFed checking and savings accounts. Learn more at PenFed.org. Federally insured by NCUA. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed Credit Union.
PenFed's got great rates for everyone.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Streamed and Screened, an entertainment podcast about movies and TV from Lee Enterprises. I'm Terry Lipschutz, managing editor of the National Newsroom at Lee, and co-host to the program with Who am I with? Oh, Bruce Miller,
He's
the Sioux City Journal,
right,
and a longtime entertainment reporter. Who are you? I don't want to sing too much in case, like, a copyright.
No. We've got a lot to talk about because this was supposed to be a big week for the movie.
Oh, yeah.
That the Fall Guy was going to bring it back. We were going to see those huge numbers. Millions will be made in the weekend, and it didn't happen. And that kind of scared the people in the studios because they're pulling back on some of their offerings for the next year. And I think it was because, look, come on. How many shows did you see Ryan Gosling on in the last month? I swear that I thought the Fall Guy had already been on.
Yeah. What's really funny about this movie too, and maybe this is part of the problem. Now, I did pull up Rotten Tomatoes just to get a sense of the aggregate, right? So it 82% from critics, so it's certified fresh. 87% from fans, so it's doing well. But it didn't do well at the box office. Nobody really, it led the box office, but it seriously underperformed. But I was even thinking to myself, like, I remember seeing the trailers in the theater or on YouTube or wherever I've seen them. And my first reaction is, I kind of remember the TV series from the 80s, and I sort of remember watching some of the episodes, but I have no interest in seeing this movie whatsoever. Like, there was nothing about those trailers that said, let's go out and spend $15 and buy a ticket and grab some popcorn. Maybe when it hits streaming I'll watch it, but there was just absolutely nothing about it that screamed like, go out and buy a ticket and head to the theater this weekend.
Well, it is fun, I will admit that, but I think you're absolutely right. It's one of those films that seems too unremarkable. It seems like something that actually Sandra Bullock and maybe Matthew McConaughey might have done years ago. Ryan has a good career ahead of him. It's just picking the right things. I do think that too much publicity hurt it. If it had kind of skulked in a little bit, it might have been better. It had great stunts. The stunts are incredible, and you actually see, how they pull them off. But maybe we like to just see the stunts unfold without all that kind of buildup, because he plays a stuntman who, gets hurt and he has to reconsider, do I really want to do this? But then he's asked to try and, help out a friend who is missing. One of the guys that he doubles for is missing. If he doesn't help find him, then the movie will probably be shut down because it's over budget. And his girlfriend, played by Emily Blunt, is directing the movie. It's her first big film, and it's a goofy film. So he's got to try and track down this guy in Australia and see what happens. And it sounds okay, but it takes too long to get to that point. There's a lot of buildup before you get to, okay, what's going on here? And I think that's one of the things. When you look and you see it's 2 hours and like 5 or 10 minutes, you go, this could have been 90. This could have been a good 90-minute movie. And I think that's where they went wrong. It's still worth seeing. It's still worth seeing in a movie theater. But I do think that overkill killed it.
So Ryan Gosling, like, I like him. I don't think negatively of him. I enjoyed him in Barbie. I can't quite figure him out. Maybe that's part of it. Like, I don't see him. He's in so many different types of movies, and you never want to see an actor get typecast, right? You want to be able to show some range, be able to do a comedy and a drama. But I still, in some ways, you always are like, okay, you are kind of like a dramatic actor, but you can do a comedy, or you're a somebody who does comedies, but maybe can do an action movie and it feels right. And I feel like with Ryan Gosling, I can't figure out where he kind of fits. Like I don't see him as an action star, and I don't know. I see him in a comedic role, and I can't quite figure him out. So when I saw even the trailers and thinking like this is a movie where 20 years ago, maybe it's a Keanu Reeves in it, being in action, maybe it's Bruce Willis, right? That kind of thing. And I look at Ryan Gosling and I just feel like he doesn't fit that role to me. And maybe that's part of the problem.
He's probably too versatile.
Maybe that's it. He's too good.
When you're a star, you kind of do the same thing. And he hasn't done enough of that same thing to really qualify in those terms.
I mean, he's all over the place. You look at some of the things he's done, like Crazy Stupid Love and Drive, The Big Short,
The Notebook,
La La Land, Barbie, obviously, Blade Runner 2049. So it's like, it's just he's somehow done every genre imaginable, but it's not necessarily, maybe in my mind, maybe for others it's different, but it's just, he hasn't necessarily set himself apart. But I expect to keep seeing him.
He's good.
Yep.
But I think he needs to kind of stop and do, what kind of career counseling should I have here? It's like Robert Downey Jr. after all of that Marvel run.
Yeah.
What next? And he went kind of low key by taking a supporting role in Oppenheimer, and he got an Oscar. So there you go. And maybe that's what he needs to do, is just go low.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Just a thought.
Maybe.
But then we bring, in the same week, we add Unfrosted, which is this goofy Netflix film from Jerry Seinfeld. And I assume it did really well with audiences. I think it had a big turnout from a viewership standpoint, but it had a real disconnect between audiences. And I think it's an age thing. I really do think it's an age thing, because younger viewers thought it was like, what is this old Jerry Seinfeld doing with this stuff? It doesn't make sense. It's not funny. And anybody who is over a certain age will remember all of the kind of pitch to kids during their childhood. When we were watching Saturday morning TV, we saw commercials like crazy that were trying to get us to get hopped up on sugar. And it was all the cereals, and they don't do that anymore. They're not going for like, this is really good. It's more of a health benefit, if anything. And so when he's doing a film about these people who are making these things in the 60s, it's just a goofy spoof. He also references the January 6th assault, riot, whatever you'd want to call it, in Washington with the characters from all of these serials. So there's Tony the Tiger leading the charge as a guy in the horns. Is that too close? They have a character who plays, or an actor who plays, John F. Kennedy, and he talks about Marilyn and Jackie, and he talks about a cereal. It should be called Jackie O's, because it's like Cheerios, like Jackie O's. And you go, okay, I get what you're going for, and I bet it's cute. And it moves. This thing is 90 minutes, and it moves very quickly. And I think it'll be an older person's film. But what this does then is kind of scare that older crowd away from going to the theater. And they're saying, why do I want to go to the movie theater? I'll just stay at home and watch this 90-minute thing that kind of addresses me and not necessarily addresses a younger audience, and I'll be fine. And I think that could hurt theaters right there.
PenFed Free Checking offers 0 fees and 0 balance requirements for 0 hassle. PenFed Access America Checking lets you earn money on your balance for dreams big and small. Choose the best account for you and start making the most of your money. Learn more at penfed.org. Federally insured by NCUA. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed Credit Union.
PenFed's got great rates for everyone.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, Netflix doesn't really release much audience data, but we do know that in the moment, it is the #1 film on Netflix, because at least that's what it's showing,
right,
according, to the when you log in.
And it could be part of their way of getting you to watch it.
Yeah, who knows? Like, they don't back it up with data, so somebody there could just be saying it is the #1 because they need people to watch it. But then you go to like Rotten Tomatoes, and it's 41% from critics, 50% audience score. So it's kind of like not that good. Jerry, I've seen him on the talk show circuit talking a little bit about it, and
He's been selling just like Ryan. He's been on all these places.
everything. He's all over the place. But he says, I'm not somebody who's going to be looking at what the critics say, because it's just that. It's just critics. It's their opinion, and that's fine. And he's also said he has no intention of directing another film. This is a one and done type of thing. And it was kind of unplanned, but it is a weird topic, the fictional start of Pop Tarts. I mean, which seems like a very giant Jerry Seinfeld topic to begin with.
Cereal, come on. What did he have in the cupboards on Seinfeld?
He's a huge breakfast guy.
It makes sense. It's like a lot of the things that Larry David does. It makes perfect sense for him. It may not make perfect sense for you, the viewer.
No.
Then you wonder, okay, so here's where we're sitting right now with the movie industry. Is it going big or is it going under? And is that giving streaming a better shot at everything? This week, we've got something that's huge. I mean, it's huge because the Disney company has purchased for Disney Plus the rights to show new Doctor Who episode. Who? That has a huge following. And it's like when they bought Star Wars. That following comes with them. So is this going to make Disney Plus a huge player in that field? Because their big competition is Netflix.
Right.
Is that how that's going to shift out? I don't know.
Yeah.
But the Doctor Who is very well done. The new versions, I've seen 3 episodes.
Okay.
And they have spent money. I talked to one of the early producers of the Doctor Who series, and he said, we never had money like that. We had to be inventive. We had to try and come up with things that would work, and yet not break the bank. And this, they have special effects money. They've got big set money. One of the things I was really surprised at is how the TARDIS. Now, TARDIS is this kind of booth that they time travel in. And when you see it, looks like a phone booth, basically, for us. It's just 4 little sides of square. And when you get inside the TARDIS, it's huge, huge. It's got, ramps and a lot of lighting. Ncuti said that the gentleman who plays the 15th Doctor, Ncuti, said that it's got a huge wardrobe inside it and handicapped accessible. It's got all these little things that, you think, wow, what is this? And so they've spent money on it, and it will be a big, big deal when they launch it because they're not letting it just kind of get out there somehow. They're going to make sure that that Doctor Who is here. I had a chance to talk to Ncuti Gatwa, who is the 15th Doctor, and then his human companion. Now, if you don't know anything about Doctor Who is an alien, and he time travels and does all these things, and usually he has a human companion who helps kind of translate for those of us who don't know what's going on. And they do think that this is a way to kind of reboot it, because through the human will ask questions that we would have if we haven't watched it, and then that will fill us in. But I got to talk to Ncuti and Millie Gibson, who plays Ruby Sunday, who is his sidekick, and asked them about things that I was curious about with the Doctor. They have gag orders on you. You can't ask specifics about episodes that you've seen.
Oh, sure.
Because it will spill, and they don't want you to talk about that. But the thing I noticed most of all, and you'll hear this now when we play the interview, was that he could cry on command. This tear that just drops right down into the side of his cheek. And he has it at least 3 times in the first 3 episodes. And I asked about that. So here you go. Meet Ncuti and Millie. I must ask you, when you guys were hired, was there some kind of job requirements? Were there things you had to do to be able to get the job?
Learn lines, memorize them, and try and say them in an interesting way.
What I noticed is you can cry on cue better than anybody. That tear just can come down like crazy, right?
We're both, yeah. I guess, I guess so. But you know what? That's a good. Russell's writing is so emotive and so transportive as well. It literally carries you through the episode. If you didn't know a thing about Doctor Who, if you hadn't read the script, his writing is so amazing. You can just say the words and it sounds like poetry. It sounds incredible. So working with a writer like that is able to craft the worlds and the scenarios that he's able to is a joy, and it makes your job as an actor so much easier. I actually don't like directors knowing about crying on cue, because I feel like people then rely on it. And I feel like it's not the only way.
It's not my only trick,
That's
right?
my back.
Oh, it's more powerful to hold in a cry.
Mm.
These things.
Yeah, I think so.
Now she says it, right? Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
You both hardcore Doctor Who fans all the time or not?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't a hardcore fan.
It's a part of my childhood, which I think it's a part of everyone's. It's, part of British furniture, like you always say. And I always watched it with my dad, which is such a beautiful memory. And he watched it with his granddad. And it's just great how the show regenerates with its audience's generations.
Fell in love with it in the preparatory period of getting ready for my audition. I was like, I need to get up to speed of 60 years of legacy. Always knew it and loved it, but didn't watch it avidly until that period. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is such a special show. I can't believe I've been sleeping on it.
You never said, oh my God, that's a part I want. I really want to be the Doctor.
Funnily enough, I did, without even having kind of growing up watching it avidly. Like you say, like it's a character in a show that we, at the Brit side, we all know and love so well, even if you're not watching it every week. So I knew that I wanted to, I text my agent a week before my audition asking for the role of the Doctor and somehow got an audition for it.
But how do you keep secrets? I mean, to me, that would be the worst part of being able to, I'm in this thing, but I can't talk about it.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, I moved so hard. I literally got off the phone to my agent and he was like, "You can't, this is strict now. You could lose the part." If he was really like digging it in, you cannot tell anyone. And I was like, of course, that's wrong. So I put the phone down. I was like, Mom, no, it was hard.
Did you tell people?
Yeah, I told so many people, man. I told so many people. But like, the thing is that it's such an unbelievable thing to say that I always had like in the back of my head like the security musings of like, this person is just not going to believe it.
Yeah,
like they're just not going to believe it. If I go up to a random person, I'm like, I'm the 15th Doctor, they're just not going to believe it. And so and they did it, and so managed to get away with it.
Okay, last question. What is it like inside the TARDIS?
Beautiful. Have you not seen?
Oh, yes, I've seen it, but
it's so much bigger than it was before. It's wheelchair accessible.
The lighting is gorgeous.
The lighting is gorgeous for us.
You have a dress-up room.
Oh my God, I've got a dress-up room. I've walk-in wardrobe. Like, it's my TARDIS is really, really nice.
All right, Bruce, thanks for that interview. And you had another interview as well with Doctor Who, right?
And this is the guy who came back to try and make it accessible for an international audience because it's going everywhere. Before it was basically British, and then they would sell it to different markets. And the U.S. market, we did get it, but it isn't like it is now. With the Disney clout, you could have 2 sticks and a fork, and you could probably pull it in if you tried. But Russel T Davies was one of the writers and showrunners during a very important part of The Doctor, where it got a lot of awards, huge attention, and it became something a little bit more. And then he went away. He was doing other things. He won awards for a lot of the dramas he was doing. They asked him, would you like to come back? We've got this little opportunity. And he said, you know what? I think I do. I think I want to come back because it's just too compelling to try and put this all together. So he's back, and he's the reason, if you heard, his writing is what makes Ncuti cry. That's just the way it is. But here's Russel T Davies. He's the showrunner and executive producer of the new Doctor Who, and he talks about some of the things they were able to accomplish. Were you missing the Doctor? Was that part of your whole, I've got to get back?
No, I mean, I kept watching Doctor Who when I wasn't working on it, when my friend Stephen Moffat took over, then Chris Chibnall took over, and Jodie Whittaker became the Doctor. So I was a happy viewer. No, it was simply the fact that the BBC had plans to supersize it. And here we are. They wanted this version, this great big international streaming version. So I thought, I can do that. I'd love that.
It looks like $1 million. It looks like you've got a lot of money to play with. Is that true?
We got a nice budget. It's not a budget of some of my fellow lovely franchises out there. But I also think Doctor Who survives not by money, by being very inventive. For example, we get given a nice bit of money for special effects, but we haven't spent that on fleets of spaceships. Instead, you've got talking babies and Jinx Monsoon. So I hope we've spent it in the right areas, in inventive areas, rather than just flashing the cash.
Well, and then when you decide to go back in time, how did you happen to choose what time you went back to.
That was a funny one. That was a friend of mine, a director called Sam Arbour, who actually directed a series that I think is on Amazon over here called Dead Hot. Anyway, he's a young man. He's about 23 years old. I've been mentoring him for a couple of years. He's a genius. And he said if I had a TARDIS, the first thing I'd go back and do is to watch the Beatles recording their very first album. And the fact that a young man said that was really attractive to me. If I'd have said it, that's the kind of thing a 61-year-old says. But for him to say it, for him to be interested in that, made me think, oh, that's interesting. And yeah, here we are. He's delighted that his one-off idea, his off-the-cuff comment has become a whole adventure.
The other thing I noticed that you were able to do is you made it inviting to people who have never seen it before.
Well, yes.
Was that purposeful? Was that we've got it now?
Absolutely deliberate. Not got to, I want to. I want the whole world to be watching this. And in fairness, every so often Doctor Who does this, and almost every season tries to start from scratch. Certainly every time a new companion walks through the door. But this time I really thought this is new. This is on a platform that'll reach places. It's been dubbed into languages it's never been dubbed into before. And that is in itself is a huge feat and a really important thing to do. So it's reaching out in home native languages to people. And so it was a chance for me to kind of introduce Ruby Sunday, the companion played by Millie Gibson, who's the human in the equation. She walks through the door of the TARDIS saying, what's this door, what's this TARDIS? And she asks every single question that the viewer wants to ask. And that's Doctor Who's a very clever show. That's why it's run for so many years, because that's inbuilt.
You're known for planting seeds that blossom later. Did you do that in this season? Are there things that sometime 10 years from now I'll be able to see?
Oh, I don't know about 10 years. Certainly this year you'll see an awful lot of blooms. I mean, on the simplest level and the most important level is the mystery of Ruby's birth. We're told in the first episode called The Church on Ruby Road that we see her being a foundling. She's a child left on a church doorstep by a mysterious woman. Is that her mother? Was it a woman? Who can it be? And that question is answered. We're not gonna give you one of those 5-year-long mysteries. I can't bear those things. Trust me, by the season finale, that reaches a devastating climax where all questions are answered and nothing is ever quite what you expect. And it's really tough for those two lead characters.
This is such a legacy show. What do you want your legacy to be?
I want my legacy to be someone like me, someone who's a child now sitting in this chair in 60 years' time, probably a hologram hyperspatial link, talking to journalists on another planet, but sitting here describing their version of Doctor Who, because I think this show can go on forever.
Is there a big book of all of the stuff you need to know? I mean, so you can go back and reference it, or how do you? There isn't
an official Bible, and a lot of it's in my head. I do know the entire television history. There's an awful lot of books. There's an awful lot of spin-offs. I don't quite count them, to be honest. I've got the television version in my head, but even then, the show has always been marvelously flexible. I think Doctor Who has seen the downfall of Atlantis 3 times. They just forgot every time that they'd done it before, and actually every time it got slightly better. So no one really cares. We all kind of think, oh, that's the timelines. The timelines got mixed up, and I'm a little bit more diligent than that. I wouldn't do a 4th Atlantis. I wouldn't push it that far. But so there's a lot of flexibility. But yes, I do have a list of not a list of rules, but a list of places where the TARDIS has been.
And are there some kind of qualities that a doctor needs? You know, when you're hiring and you're looking for someone, what are those things?
I think anyone casting any drama would say to you that their lead actor needs to be limitless, so that, you know, it's when you start, some actors, bless them, you might say, oh, they're good at comedy, or they're not good at comedy, they're good at the dark stuff. And actually, no thanks. I want someone who's good at everything. I want someone who's good in ways I can't even possibly anticipate and describe. And we've absolutely got that with Ncuti and with Millie as his companion. It's like, I feel I can write anything and take them anywhere, because I think I'm always chasing their talent. Frankly, I'm chasing to catch up with how good their talent is.
Well, it's so fun. And I told Ncuti, I said his ability is to cry on cue, and you take full advantage of it. So,
oh my God, it's like he's an editor's dream, because the tears flow. You can see the editor going, bang, we'll cut there as the emotion hits him. He's so raw, he's so open, he's so emotional. And I think for a male hero to be that in 2024 on screen in a great big close-up is a wonderful thing.
All right, Bruce, thanks again for that interview. And, as a music fan, I am a bit of a Beatles fan too. So it was fun to hear that.
I wish I could tell you more, but you won't be disappointed if you're a fan of the Beatles. So look for that.
I might have to check this out. I've never seen Doctor Who at all. Like it's, and I think it is because it is a very British show. Obviously it's available here, but it's not pegged in necessarily to whatever I've been watching. So it's just, you kind of have to go out and find it. It's not been, locked in with Disney Plus, that kind of thing. So maybe I'll give it a whirl.
Sure. And then you'll want to go back and see the old episodes, and they're out there, they're available. There are some early ones that never did get saved.
Yeah, it's crazy. They would film them and then basically record over them or destroy them or whatever.
We do have some interesting things coming up. I'm doing an interview with folks who are part of the documentary called Telemarketers. And Telemarketers goes inside those kind of telemarketing firms where they get you to donate money, and how much of a real racket this is. So we've got that coming up. I have a thing with the Blue Angels. They'll be coming through. So there are a number of things that are happening. And then we're going to get to the very important Memorial Day weekend when all the big movies start hitting.
Are there any films in particular you're really looking forward to this? Before we get to that episode, but because this conversation about the Fall Guy did get me thinking about, like, is there anything I'm actually excited about this summer? And the sad answer is no. I can't think of a film that I feel like, I got to get out there.
From My People, the Planet of the Apes film is going to crack that franchise wide open. And so even if you didn't like the Planet of the Apes films before, this is the one that will give you something to kind of latch on to. So it's monkey time.
I didn't mind the rebooted series. It's been okay. I don't think it's been great, but I don't think it's been terrible either.
No, and when we first saw it way back when, it was just the surprise of all of it that, oh man, they're this smart? And
right.
Now they're probably smarter than what the humans are.
Yeah.
So is it a matter of taking over or tamping down the humans?
Right. Yeah, because that's this installment, because you had that if we're just talking about the reboot, and I'm not talking about the Mark Wahlberg reboot,
right?
That was kind of like that one-off that never. So you had, was it the James Franco one where it was sort of before the Planet of the Apes, and they did that one, and then there was the next one, which was like 5-10 years after that, and then they did the last one, which was several more years after the previous one. But this one is like a significant leap into the future, like 200-300 years, right?
Right. So we'll see but that's the one that I'm hearing the most buzz about, is Planet of the Apes is going to be the movie of summer.
Yeah, in those rebooted Planet of the Apes movies, I've seen them all, and as I said, I didn't hate them. They're not the greatest, but it's a good flick. Grab some popcorn, right? It's a popcorn franchise.
Will it get you out of the house?
No, because I've never gone to the theater to see any of them. I've always watched them, streaming or rented a DVD or something.
So this may be the one.
Maybe I have the bucket. I told you I bought the bucket, and we've only been to one movie.
You've got to use it. Come on.
I know. That bucket is collecting dust. We saw Ghostbusters, and that was it.
There is popcorn to be eaten.
All right. Well, hopefully something good will come out soon and get me off the couch and into theater this summer.
Watch Doctor Who first.
I'll watch Doctor Who first.
And then get off the couch.
I will do that. So on that note, thanks again for listening, and be back again next week for another episode of Streamed in Screen.
Welcome to another round of Boardroom or Miro Board. Today we talk retrospectives with Agile coach Maria. Let's go. First question. You've spent 2 hours in a team retro, but the only input you've heard is Dave's. Boardroom or Miro Board?
Boardroom. In Miro, Dave can't hog the space because everyone can add thoughts anonymously, online, at the same time.
Correct. Next. You need the team to act on feedback fast, so you turn all those retro notes into Jira tasks instantly.
Miro all the way. And I can assign those tasks to teammates.
You're nailing this. Now, you see hundreds of sticky notes from the retro. A real mess. But you organize them into 5 themes in just seconds.
Miro, I basically get back an entire hour when I use its AI tools for clustering.
And she's done it.
Join over 60 million people running actually enjoyable and actionable retros in Miro. Get your first 3 boards free at Miro.com. That's Miro.com.